all week we have been covering the frustrations of commercial fishers. They say the fishing quotas are too small for this year's bumper run on the Fraser River, the bumper run of sockeye. Now, on Monday, we spoke with Michael Griswold, former Canadian member of the Cross-Border Pacific Salmon Commission, and he resigned after 40 years on that commission over what he thinks is an overly cautious management plan by Fisheries and Oceans Canada. Well, today we have the DFO's senior salmon advisor with us. His name is Adam Kaiser. He's also chair of the Pacific Salmon Commission Fraser River panel. Michael Griswold actually gave his resignation directly to Adam. Adam Kaiser, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. And I think your voice is very, very important in this conversation to sort of round things out. You're chair of the Pacific Salmon Commission. Michael Griswold has been on that commission for 40 years. So some of what he said drove him to step down was what he says are misguided, uninformed, unbalanced Fraser River sockeye management. What do you make of it all?
Fraser River sockeye in particular are a very charismatic species that drives a lot of interest and passion amongst folks. And it's a complicated system to work through.
Okay.
This year please go ahead.
No, I would like you to continue. Complicated in what way?
In particular, fisheries management is about trade-offs between harvest and conservation. To inform these fishery trade-offs, managers need to evaluate management actions, like quota limits, against their management objectives. And when setting these objectives, Fisheries and Oceans Canada's first priority is always conservation. So for salmon, this means managing fisheries to get enough fish to their spawning grounds for the next generation. Now, after conservation, First Nations fisheries for food, social, and ceremonial purposes are provided priority access, consistent with some constitutional rights. And then after these food, social, ceremonial harvests are provided an opportunity, we have openings, hopefully, for recreational and commercial fisheries.
So now, what do you think of the outcry this week?
Yeah, so what is a bit different over the past few years is the department and the Crown has embarked on a collaborative governance process with over 70 Indigenous nations, from the marine approach waters to the Fraser River, all the way up to the terminus in the watershed. These 70 nations and the department form a group called the Fraser Salmon Management Board that helps set what these objectives are. And so really refining our conservation metrics and providing priority food, social, ceremonial access is key. The other piece that's important to acknowledge here is for this season, we have seen a large estimated return. Our preseason forecast, they're produced in probabilistic ranges, which means there's a whole suite of outcomes. In 2025, the midpoint was about 3 million sockeye, but the range in the forecast was 700,000 to over 13 million. When we receive the in-season information through test fisheries and monitoring programs on the river, we have a current estimate of about 9 million. This is really good news, exciting news. But also, while this is large relative to recent years, it's actually well within the long-term range of about 8 million fish. So yes, more sockeye than in recent years, but over the big picture, pretty average. And more importantly, not all of the Fraser stocks that are actually returning to the river are returning in equal number. Much of this abundant return this year is driven by one subunit, and it's about 7 times more abundant than other stocks of concern that are migrating at the same time.
Now, Adam, I appreciate you're taking us through, all of the rationale for your decisions. I want to hear from you personally. I mean, you're the guy in charge here. How do you feel about all this anger erupting this week?
I wouldn't classify it as anger. This is definitely a complex decision where we're working with recreational, Indigenous, and commercial interests, as well as the broader Canadian public and conservation. While I really value the many years of service that folks like Mr. Griswold have offered, I also note that there are folks upriver in the interior who still have not had their opportunity to fish. I also note the excitement of having a recreational opening in the lower Fraser River for the first time since 2022. So it's definitely a mixed bag of the fishing season so far.
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear your response. How are you feeling about it all?
I am feeling like we are we're doing our best to balance these interests, and I'm confident in the approach that we've taken.
I'm just curious. What was that conversation like with Michael Griswold when he handed in his resignation? You've known him for some time. He's been on the commission for 40 years.
Yeah, Mr. Griswold has always been very generous with his expertise and has offered lots of insight into the process, as well as perspectives about what his commercial interests are in the fishery. It is upsetting to see Mr. Griswold resign, and note that there's a number of other folks in the process that continue to participate and provide their perspective on commercial, recreational, Indigenous fisheries at the Fraser River panel.
We did speak with Michael Griswold earlier this week. I just want you to hear a little bit about his concerns with this decision-making process right now. Here's some of what he took issue with.
The margins would have been warranted in the past, but this year those margins were vetoed by another group, and there is my frustration that another group sitting over and above the Fraser panel sort of basically took those options away from the commercial industry.
Okay, so that was Michael Griswold from our conversation earlier this week. So is there going to be a commitment from the government to open the decision-making process back up to include all stakeholders?
The decision-making process is open to all stakeholders. Under the terms of the Pacific Salmon Treaty between Canada and the United States, it is Canada's obligation to produce the conservation goals, the escapement plan that Mr. Griswold's referring to. When that process gets underway each year in about January, scientists sit down to figure out what is a range of options to help inform that plan. We then take that plan through our collaborative process with the Fraser Salmon Management Board, and then broad public consultation through our integrated fishery management plans. There are those opportunities to provide that insight. The responsiveness to the panel in season to those rules is something that also exists. The escapement plan is abundance based, and so while we saw almost double, 3 times the fish right now as we had in our preseason median forecast, the amount of allowable mortality has also increased.
What's affecting that mortality?
The mortality limit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the mortality limits are defined by harvest rates for each of the 4 aggregates that Fraser sockeye are managed on. And the main driver this year in providing a fairly conservative management limit is that one of the more abundant one of the 4 stocks is not nearly as abundant as the others. And so while there should be plenty of harvest opportunity on a stock called the Summers, co-migrating late stock is much more constraining. And so while we want folks to have an opportunity to harvest, we need to ensure that these late fish are able to get home.
Where are your biggest concerns here when we talk about the species that's not as abundant right now?
It is a number of stocks composed of the late management unit. So these are fish that are returning to areas like the Shuswap and up through Harrison Lake.
Okay. We do understand allocations can change based on a number of environmental factors as well. We spoke with a salmon ecologist, Scott Hinch, on the program yesterday. He said communication from DFO can often come without explanation. I mean, could a lack of clear communication from the DFO be contributing to this frustration, you think, with the commercial industry at all?
There is a few complexities within management, and communication may be one of them. This is why we have regular engagement sessions with stakeholders, and in fact, this collaborative Fraser River panel process to ensure that decision-making is not just coming from the department, but that it's a collaborative process with commercial, recreational, and Indigenous interests. To Dr. Hinch's point, an added complexity is that we manage Fraser sockeye in real time throughout the season, with new data streams coming online at different points. At the start of the season, we saw forecasts which indicated less than ideal migratory conditions in terms of hot water and low flow. We had a bit of a cooler spell, which allowed us to, or alleviated some of our concerns and initiate some fisheries. And then as we've seen over the past week, conditions have again degraded. And so we are trying to be as responsive as we can to that environmental variability, as well as the returning abundance of Fraser sockeye. And so I can understand how these multiple moving parts can create a sense of confusion among some folks.
Adam Kaiser, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That's Adam Kaiser, DFO's Senior Salmon Advisor. He is also the chair of the Pacific Salmon Commission Fraser River Panel.